Hi everyone, this is the video where I'm going to demonstrate to you a couple different approaches to drawing the figure, and we're going to use the gesture drawing as our way to get the figure, the pose of the figure down and the proportion. So when I say gesture drawing, I'm really talking about the same technique I showed you when I demonstrated drawing the full portrait, which is a continuous line where the line always stays on your paper. And so you do the same thing for gesture, only you purposefully make yourself do it really fast. So that's called a fast line gesture or a quick line gesture. A quick line gesture, there's a couple different types of ways of doing it. There's just a regular line and there's scribbled line, and they can take anywhere from 10 seconds to 2 minutes. And then the extended gesture is when you start off with a quick line gesture or scribbled line gesture and then carry it longer. It can last anywhere up to 2 minutes, up to 30 or more minutes long. So the extended gesture is when you start the drawing as a quick gesture, and then you just keep going and going and going, and you kind of slow down, and it turns into more of a regular drawing that you're used to with line and value and contour. So the things to remember when you're doing a gesture drawing of a figure, and I don't have a person to look at, so I'm just going to imagine one, is whatever pose they're taking, you imagine that there is a line that goes straight through the center of their body from head to toe, right? And so you want to start with that. It's called the longest line in the pose. So depending on the way the person is sitting or standing, the line that travels through the center of them is going to look different. So if I'm just doing a person who's standing straight up and down, my center line, the longest line in the pose, is going to be pretty straight. So let's say there's a person just standing like normally with their arms by their sides. So then I would just start with the longest line in the pose like that, and then keeping my pencil on the paper, I follow it back up and make it maybe a circle for the head, another line for an arm, another line for an arm, and a line for a leg, and that's my quick line gesture of that pose. So that's a quick 5-second, 10-second line gesture. It's important to make yourself do it as fast as you can. So maybe even use your phone or your watch and time yourself and just put the alarm on 10 or 15 seconds and see how quickly you can do it. If we were in the classroom, that's exactly what I would be doing with you all, but I can't. So you're on your honor to take the challenge and see how fast you can draw a gesture. You're really examining the pose though. You're saying, okay, this line is going from the top of the head to the center of the torso and then down one of the legs to the feet, right? And then I have to really quickly get a leg, an arm, and an arm, right? If you have a family member or a friend who can do different poses for you, that would be ideal. That would be ideal. Absent that, you could do a Google search for dancer poses. There's a lot of different poses with dancing that you could do gestures of. That's just one idea out of many. So this is a regular line gesture. Now, what is a scribbled line gesture? So for your homework, I'm asking you to do a series of small, quick gestures of a friend or a family member or a pet even. And they can be either a line gesture like I did here, or they can be scribbled line. So if I was going to do scribbled line of the same pose, I would start again with the same longest line I saw in the pose, and then I would start to scribble immediately. And my scribbles are kind of filling up the shape that I see. So it kind of follows down each arm, each leg, and down to the feet. So see the difference there? They're pretty similar, but the line is just a straight line just to get the basic angles of the arms and legs and torso and the head, and the scribbled line actually fills in the shape. So lots of little scribbles filling in the shape. So same with the scribbled line, give yourself a few extra seconds, maybe 15 or 20 seconds, to do scribbled line gesture. And the more you practice this, the more accurate your drawings become, and the more you can start to see the correct proportion. One of my little tips for doing this type of gesture drawing is to think of the body as a series of joints or junctures, right? So you have the head, and then you have from shoulder to elbow, and then you have from elbow to wrist to hand, right? And then you have the torso, and then you have the hips, right? And then you have from hip to knee, knee to ankle to foot. So those are all different joints. If you separate the body out into those different sections, it'll be easier for you to see and draw the correct proportion. So now extended gesture. How would I take these quick gesture drawings and make them into a longer, more finished piece? So the basic way that you would is just by continuing with your overlapping line. Maybe slow, once you've got the proportion, the size of everything, the limbs, the torso, and the head, once you've got the size of them right, then you would start to get a little more picky and get a little more detailed and start to redraw things a little bit better. You know, like flesh out the shapes of everything as you see it. It's definitely a process of looking and redrawing. So I'm not just making it up, I'm looking at the pose, looking at the model, trying to get it exactly the way I see it. Right? And then at a certain point, you have kind of built up sort of a mass of gray lines. And when that happens, you can switch to your eraser and start erasing out any highlights that you see. You know, and drawing with your eraser to get the shapes of the limbs even more accurate. You know, you're going to be looking, if you're looking at a person, they're going to have clothing, so you're going to be looking at things like highlights and folds in fabric and trying to draw those just right. Right, and then just like when we do a normal value drawing, going back and forth between your pencil or charcoal and your eraser, drawing the dark parts, the shadows, and then drawing the highlights until you have it mostly well in place. And then that's an extended gesture. So your assignment is to do, I think, 10 different quick gestures in your sketchbook, and then to do 3 different extended gestures of friend, family, or pet.